instead of a podcast this week, we actually did an interview with the prison show. They actually interviewed us in preparation for Fan Expo and just to talk about our podcast. The prison show is a radio show that is recorded in Houston and is broadcast by a local radio station, and a lot of inmates listening to it. That's how I first heard about it, was while I was in prison. Malone and I both listened to it while we were locked up, yeah, I've always wanted to be on it ever since I got out. I've been in contact with them many times, and last week it just so happened that last minute we were able to get on. And as you'll hear, there are a lot of technical difficulties. So I hope you enjoy the show, and we look forward to talking to you soon, probably after Fan Expo, when we hopefully are able to do a live stream for you guys. All right, bye.
How's it going, guys? Sorry about that.
Pretty good. Where's Malone?
Malone, we had a lot of technical difficulties trying to call into the show tonight. So yeah, he is actually just up the road from you guys. We were trying to both call in, and hopefully he'll be down to visit you guys when you get set up in a new home.
Yeah, I sent Hank a little bit of information, but I think he's a little bit behind. So you should tell us, how'd you hear the prison show and all that good stuff? Just tell us your story.
Yeah. So I host the Shakedown with Malone, and we both met while we were at the Stringfellow unit. I spent 6 years in TDC for intoxicated manslaughter, and Malone spent 30 years in TDC, and I'll let him tell his story when he gets on. And then what happened was at Stringfellow unit, we met through the Jewish program at the unit, and we started working on comics together and started talking, and then we actually got out just in this past year and put together this podcast about criminal justice and talking about our experiences and kind of letting people know how the criminal justice system actually works as opposed to how it works on TV and in movies and things like that.
Okay. All right. So you guys got this podcast going. How many episodes have you done?
We are on our 6th one right now.
Oh, nice. Okay. So it's still fresh, brand new.
Right. It's still brand new, but we've had a whole bunch of ideas lined up from the beginning, and we're just basically, the way each episode works is we tackle the different question about criminal justice, about just life in TDC. We've done who are trustees, what are shakedowns, all the way to do we need prisons, and like going through the history of prisons and things like that, and also from our experience. And we just we basically just start from that point and kind of jump off from there throughout the rest of the show.
Well, I noticed that one of the things you mentioned was the death penalty too, which we cover that every week, whether it's on the broader national spectrum or on the TDCJ spectrum. And that's something we feel strongly about, that because it doesn't make the community safer. And we've had it for almost about 20 years of the history of the United States, and it's never stopped working.
Right, and that is something we are, we're both against the death penalty. And the one big thing that we've learned from our experience is that it is a very hard thing to attack, because of the way people who defend it, their view on it is, and because the way they look at it is it's reserved for the worst of the worst, and those are the only people who get it, and that's how it is. And the way we look at it is it's part of a much bigger system of neglect, and if we take out that the bigger system from the ground up, the death penalty goes down along with it. And that's part of why we want to shed light is this thing. It's not just the death penalty that's going in there that's harmful. It's the entire practice of not trying to rehabilitate people, to thinking that it's okay to just throw people, just basically take them out of society and forget about them, and not try and bring them back in and give them the help they need to come back.
You know, people also miss the fact that it really isn't reserved for the worst of the worst, because you get people that are getting the death penalty under law of parties, and they weren't the person that pulled the trigger, that sort of thing. Or, escapees who weren't the ones that pulled the trigger and, wound up with it, that sort of thing. And then there's the whole aspect of people that were innocent. And we're around 200 exonerations, right at 200 exonerations in the U.S. out of a population on death rows of just over 3,000. So that shows you there's some percentage of people across the board that are innocent, and their cases just never get looked into.
Right, and I mean that's just on death row too. I mean this is,
Yeah.
and that's overall on the system. There are tons of people who there are people who are innocent but will say that they're guilty for a number of reasons, just because they just don't want to spend. It's easier to get their sentence and stop sitting and waiting in jail and just sign the paper and be done with it, and just start serving their time and get time served for what they did, as opposed to trying to fight the whole thing, which they might get a longer sentence for. And yeah.
Yeah, the level of severity between what you get as a plea bargain and what you get if you're convicted in a court is dramatically different. They use that as an additional punishment for making use of the courts, which you're supposed to have the free use of anyway when you're accused.
Right. And a lot of people forget too that it's innocent until proven guilty, and a lot of people don't even get that shot at trying to prove their guilt, prove their guilt or innocence. It's going to try. They want to. It's basically you're accused. It's done. That part's done, and it's just a matter of how punished you're going to get. And really, one big thing we focus on there is a lot of that, because of the way that's set up. That's a lot of that relies on the prosecutor. That gives so much power to the prosecutor, and sometimes they might just be making a name for themselves, and they just need that big win, and that's why that person gets what they get.
In Texas, they don't get reelected unless they have a high conviction rate.
Right.
And that eliminates, all but eliminates, the search for truth and fact and guilt or innocence in order to get those high conviction rates.
Right.
I wonder. Well, I don't know. I don't want to get off down the rabbit hole. we're already on a big topic here. Is there something else you would like to discuss tonight? I didn't have a chance before the show to get the rundown.
Well, those are the two big. The big thing is we just want to talk about, just mention our show, Shakedown. You can find it at shakedown.show, and we're going to be at Fan Expo in Denver if you're in the area for that, and we're going to do a panel on writing comics in prison, and at Fan Expo, and then. But the other thing is the big thing is that the death penalty is a big part of a larger problem, and I feel like that one big thing is we need to. Sometimes it really gets easy for especially the people who are defending the death penalty to use that as a way to distract from from the bigger problem that needs to be fought of this thing where people can be cast aside from society and be forgotten about, and they need to. We need to look at how these people are getting sent there in the first place, from the beginning, how everyone is being sent there, and from the bottom up, how we can do this. And I think that is our best chance at getting everyone out. Malone was on the call here earlier with me, but I think that's what kind of jacked up my my mic. But he has a very similar view on how he sees the death penalty, on how to try and attack it and try and get rid of the overall problem.
Well, you mentioned how this whole process works, and it begins with the arrest. Because in America, people buy the whole thin blue line fantasy, which it is a fantasy because less than half of all crime ever gets reported. And out of that half that does get reported, less than half of that ever gets solved. And some of those are false convictions. Innocent people that, like you said, plea bargain just so they can get their sentence over and get out, that sort of thing. Get on with it. And it's a hard situation because people believe that once you're arrested, you're guilty.
Right. And part of that is because they think that when all of their taxes, which even where I'm at, I'm in a small town up in Colorado. And it's a growing town, but the thing is that a lot of our taxes go towards the police department, and because they feel that that's where it needs to go. And part of that is because the way they understand it is when there's an investigation, they need to have the latest technology and this whole team that gets put together that as soon as something goes wrong, they can attack it and solve this problem. But that's not how policing in general works. They might buy the latest and greatest taser, but they're not going to go out and they're not, they don't have the latest and greatest, I guess, I don't know, fingerprint enhancing software or whatever that they to dig through. That's not what's going out there to solve crimes. And in this,
busy arming and not doing the investigative stuff.
Right. And the thing is, here there's no reason to, because there's been a murder here like once in the past 100 years. So yeah.
So they don't even need all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting the signal. We're out of time here. We've got to have you back, man. Get with David and let's see when we can get you back, and maybe Malone can be there too.
Yes,
how
definitely.
How can people get a hold of you?
Yes, you can get a hold of us, shakedown.show. That's our website. And I'm Ryan at shakedown.show, or you can find Malone at shakedown.show and email us that way, and you can find all of our episodes.
Mailing address?
Oh, a mailing address would be P.O. Box 91, Longmont, Colorado, 80502. That's again,
one more time, please.
P.O. Box 91, Longmont, Colorado, 80502. And you can meet Ryan at the Shakedown, Ryan Forbes, Rainforest. They'll get it to me.
All right. Rainey, we thank you so much. We'll have you back on, I'm sure of that.
Great.
Shakedown.show is a real easy website to use. You can listen to all 6 podcasts there. Go down there and take a listen and see what goes on. Thanks, Ryan.
All right, thanks. The Shakedown is recorded in luxurious Longmont Public Media Studios, and our theme song, Shakedown, is provided by Envato Elements.